Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel. About a month and a half ago, I decided to try downsizing my planner system from my Hobonichi Cousin and Traveler's Notebook combo to my Hobonichi Original A6 and Weekly Supplement. Today I'm going to share an update on how that's been going and what my plans are for the rest of this year. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I invite you to settle in with your journal or planner, grab yourself a cozy beverage and a snack while we hang out and chat about planners. Before I get into the planner system, I had a couple of quick updates. First of all, I have taken a little bit of a break because things have been really busy on my end. And if you're still here joining me today, I just wanted to say thank you for sticking around. I've gotten into quite a habit of trying to make a video a week, and I miss talking with you. I also have a couple of stationery updates. Usually when I have a really large body of work to do, so whether that's like a major paper or a report or presentation for work, I do have a tendency to take a lot of procrastination breaks. And one of the things that I usually do is online window shopping. I wanted to share a really exciting thing that I came across on Facebook Marketplace, and that is somebody who decided to part with their unopened bottles of these two Iroshizuku inks. I couldn't believe it when I came across this listing. I have samples of these two inks that Danielle from my Dandelion Diaries gave me last year, and I fell in love with these two inks, and I never thought I was going to have an opportunity to grab full bottles, so I couldn't believe it when I saw this listing. So this is Tsukushi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And this is probably my all-time favorite ink, and that is Inaho. So I cannot believe that I managed to get full bottles of these inks. And honestly, I don't think I would have if I hadn't been procrastinating on a random weekend where everybody else was probably out having fun, enjoying the sunshine. But I was cooped up inside on my computer doing work, and in a procrastination break, I came across this listing and I snapped it up immediately. And the person who ended up selling it also, when she sent it to me, gave me a couple of extras. So she gave me these Hobonichi Techo notebooks. I haven't even looked. So it's these little notebooks. I am not sure what kind of paper this is. If anybody knows, let me know. I'm sure I can look it up. It feels really smooth, so I wonder if this is the Tomoe River Sanzen paper or if it's the predecessor. But anyway, that was so nice of her to include this. And she also gave me this really cute little pen. I haven't inked it up yet, but it looks like it's a little pocket pen, and it's really cute. And it comes with this, I don't know, is this like a converter? I don't know, cartridge. Anyway, I think I'm gonna have to use a syringe to fill this up, but I'm really excited to ink this up and see how it writes, because I've never had a rollerball type of pen, so it's a different kind of nib, and it's so cute. I think I'm actually gonna use this as my pen that I keep in my wallet. All right, let's get into the video. In case you are new here, a few videos ago I mentioned that I was going to experiment with moving from my Hobonichi Cousin. I was using the weekly layouts to plan out my week, and then I had a traveler's notebook insert that I was using as a running daily to-do list. I'll link that video below that explains a little bit more about why I decided to downsize, but I had mentioned in that video that I was going to switch over to my A6 Original, which I had initially started the year off using it as fun kind of daily journal. and it was kind of turning into sort of like an ink log. And because I already had this and my traveler's notebook insert had run out, instead of starting a new insert, I thought it would be a good opportunity to test out whether I could downsize my weekly planning from this weekly layout into the weekly supplement. So I tried this, I bought this actually last year intending to eventually make this downsize, but I wasn't sure if I would be able to work with this small size. So I actually tried it out back in January, decided that it was definitely not going to work for me, closed this up, put it away. And then I saw a video by Himiwari Stationery where she showed how she was using her weekly supplement successfully in the way that I was using my Hobonochi Cousin. And it inspired me to pick this up again and give it another try. So I ended up kind of doing some backfilling just to test it out and see how I felt about it. And I started to feel really good about it. So when June rolled around and my TN needed to be refilled, before I went ahead and started a new insert, I decided to attempt to use this as an actual weekly planner. And then I decided to repurpose this book from an ink fun journal into an actual daily planner. So this became my system. This has been my system for the last few weeks, and let's talk about how that went. So I'm going to go over what went well, what didn't go as well with this experiment, what did I learn, and what I plan to do for the rest of this year. And while I do that, I will do a flip through just to show you how things have gone. This was so portable. I really loved being able to fit this in my purse, which was one of the main reasons why I wanted to downsize, because I love the Cousin. I kind of treat the Cousin as a notebook for me. It's a place where I can take a lot of notes in my meetings, and if I'm doing some kind of study, I like having a notebook nearby for me to take my notes in. And I love the fact that it is dated, so there's always an additional way for me to index my notes and, if anything, even cross-reference between dates if I want to. So that's actually why I love the Cousin. And I also really love the vertical weeklies because I'm someone who really needs to have my week laid out for me on paper instead of always referencing my digital calendar. Not that I don't reference my digital calendar, but I like to have it open throughout my workday so I can glance at it and just make sure that I'm not missing any meetings, that kind of thing. This fits really nicely into my purse, and I love that the weekly supplement is actually separate, because if I want to, like, I can just put this in my purse and use this to keep track of appointments, and I don't even need to bring this if I don't want to. So that was by far, like, I expected that to be a plus of switching into this system, and it was definitely, it definitely served that purpose really well. And I love how compact and portable this is. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I originally had my A6 in this Love It Panda cover, and I love this cover, but last year when I made my Hobonichi purchase, I also bought this cover because I fell in love with it, and my plan at the time was this would be for my fun journal, and then this would be my work notebook cover. So I was planning on putting a blank A6 notebook in here and then keeping this as my fun journal. It turns out that this is a little bit too small for the purpose that I had wanted it for. So by like the second or third month, I'd already gone through 2 or 3 of these A6 notebooks. So for the work purpose, I've actually upsized to bigger notebooks. And anyway, I decided to swap the covers around just for a change. And when I take this planner with me in my purse, I don't have a plastic cover and cover for this, and I don't feel comfortable putting this in my purse without a cover. It's really easy for me to just pop this out and stick it back in here. So I really like this cover as well because it has a little pocket in the back and I can stick my weekly supplement in. It's really nice to be able to swap covers really quickly when I want to take my whole planner out with me. And when I'm at home, it's been really nice to be able to switch into this beautiful cover that wasn't actually getting as much use until recently. Even if I didn't use these covers, I just really like how small this book is. So for my cousin last year, once I finished this cousin and took it out of my leather cover, I put it in one of these plastic covers, and I would even be open to doing the same thing with this and just traveling with this on its own. It's so compact, even with these two together, it's so small. The other thing that I noticed about this having this smaller size is that I've found that somehow just having everything in this compact size made me downsize how much time I was thinking about planning. I don't really know how else to explain it, but in some ways, just seeing my calendar or my schedule on this small page kind of made it feel really like contained and manageable. And there's so little room here that I don't have really a lot of space to doodle or do anything. I add these stickers after the week is over. So a typical week is really just blank. I put all my appointments in, and then I leave this open on my desk throughout the week, and I just reference it so that I make sure that I'm not missing anything. And then, as I mentioned, at the end of the week, sometimes I'll go in and I'll just, add some stickers in any of the blank spots so that when I flip through it later, it's a pleasant flipping experience. As for the A6, I will do a quick flip through. I'm just going to move these covers out of the way for now. I've been using the left column to outline the meetings that I have for that day and then my to-do list. And so this is just a running to-do list where I note down the things that I need to do, and then whatever doesn't get done gets moved over to the next day. And I prefer to rewrite things when I need to do them as opposed to having like a weekly to-do list that I'm referencing, because I don't know, there's something about the act of writing it out over and over again that makes me more likely to just get the task done so that I don't have to keep moving things over. And sometimes when I'm moving a task over repeatedly, that in a way also gives me an extra opportunity to reflect on why I'm not getting it done and whether it is something that needs to continue to be prioritized or needs to continue to be on my list. And then on the right side, I've been keeping it really unstructured. Occasionally I will write like a mini summary of the day or a thought of the day. Sometimes I will leave it blank, and then if I happen to have a meeting, like a quick meeting, and I need to take notes, I will flip to an empty page and use that blank space. I've been adding in like ink thoughts when I ink up a pen with a new ink. Sometimes I'll kind of add that in there. And then on Sundays, because I don't really do a lot of planning, I kind of treat this page as my whatever I want to do with it page. So on this day, I had fun swatching out all of the ink samples that I got recently from Danielle. And then sometimes I create new lists that I will want to reference later, and I'll, put them in a box so I can remember to go back to them. That's it. Yeah, so examples of things, notes that I would take here that are not necessarily something that I would want to put in my cousin, and we can talk about that later, but I'm still using my cousin. This is the kind of place where I would put notes on things like pet insurance or pet care. And I've been kind of turning my Sundays into currently inked pages just because I like taking stock of what is currently inked to my pens, and I think it's kind of fun. Oh, and then at the bottom, I've also been noting down what I've been eating. So I used to do this in my cousin as well. As an example, here I have my weekly schedule, and then I would put what I had for lunch and dinner because I do my meal planning in my Hobonichi weeks, but I don't always eat and cook on the days that I plan on. So sometimes there is a difference between what I plan and what is reality, and I've just been enjoying tracking it somewhere. And because I have this open on my desk all the time and my meal planner lives in the kitchen and I only access it every couple of weeks when I'm doing meal planning for the next 2 weeks, I find it's easier to track this kind of stuff in here as opposed to my meal planning Hobonichi. So I've just been tracking that down here. I thought about tracking it here at the bottom. I could definitely do that, but I just thought it would be a bit too crowded. And been very casual, and it's great. Like, I wouldn't consider this to be the main place that I would do journaling. It's more like if I have a few moments, or if there's something I really want to remember and I don't feel like grabbing my journal or whatever, I'll put it in here, and I've been really enjoying that. And then I had a lot of empty pages in the last few weeks because I've just been working on a few things, and so I've been kind of having fun filling them up after the fact. And I don't mind the empty pages because sometimes I'll flip back and use this for notes. Maybe I'll just throw in a big sticker, or maybe I'll just leave it blank. But I don't feel any kind of pressure to fill up all these pages. More empty pages. This was a particularly busy time where I had to take a lot of notes. This has been such a wonderful switchover. I had hoped it was going to be successful, and it definitely was. I've really loved using this book, honestly. And I also really love that these pages are dated. So with my Traveler's Notebook insert, I basically had a blank page, and I would manually add in my dates because I did have a phase where I hated having blank space, and I figured if I add my own dates, then there's never going to be a blank space because I'm just going to pick up where I left off. So if I missed 3 or 4 days, it wouldn't matter because I would just put the next day I needed to use my insert right under the last entry. And I think that that can be really great as well, because if you're someone who really feels guilty when you have blank spaces, then I think that can be a really great workaround. But for me, in this period of my life, I highly value minimal setup because I just don't want to be spending any more time than I have to in my planners and thinking too much about planning, because I would rather spend my time doing other things. So in a way, downsizing to this size has really felt like an intentional shift away from spending too much time planning and really just keeping it as functional as possible, and then, maybe adding some decoration after the fact when I feel like it and if I have time. Honestly, I don't have a lot to say about how I would improve it. I mean, there was a time when I had thought I really wanted to have the weekly integrated into the original like it is in the Cousin, but I've actually really grown to love the fact that these are separate because this is so portable on its own, and then even this two together is really portable, and then having this open on my desk just takes up so little space that it's great. So I guess my only complaints honestly are just the fact that these are getting kind of bulky. I know that this is bulky because for almost the first half of this year I was using it as I was using it kind of as an ink journal, and putting ink all over the pages has really made these pages like really crinkly. When I compare to my Cousin from last year, this Cousin is completely full, and it was basically an ink only book because it was so thick to begin with that I really wanted to keep it as lean as possible. So I know that if I were to use an A6 as a planner in the future, I think I would probably do pen only, just like I did with this one. So I think it won't, basically what I'm saying is I don't think it would be as bulky if I were to use this again as my main planning system. But right now it is kind of bulky and it does annoy me a little bit. And then when I put this in one of my covers, it bulks it up even more. So I don't know. I guess I have options. Like I could either not use a cover next year and just have a plastic cover like this, or I could use the cover, except that it'll be a little bulky, but really try to keep this as pen only and maybe very minimal stickers. And then yeah, same with the weekly. I was having a lot of fun putting like washi tape and stuff at the bottom, and it has caused a bit of a bump at the bottom. So it's not like unusable, but it is getting bulky. That's honestly my only complaint, which I don't think is that big of a deal because it's definitely something that I can work with in the future. I still need a weekly planner, but it doesn't have to be in this Cousin format, which is honestly a really big surprise for me because earlier this year when I tried to use the weekly supplement, it felt like such a fail that I really didn't think that it would be possible for me. But just the way my work is right now, a lot of my meetings are set and they don't tend to move around as much. Back when I was working primarily in tech, my schedule was completely not my own, and so having a vertical weekly would have been a waste of time because meetings get scheduled, rescheduled, moved around like even on the same day. So I wouldn't say that this would always work for me no matter what, but for my phase in life right now and how I see my work schedule progressing for the foreseeable future, I think this is going to work really well for me. And you know, this was feeling a little bit overwhelming because it's so big, and now that I've downsized to this, it just feels less overwhelming somehow having the smaller size. The other thing I've learned is I really love having dated pages, so this is working really well for me, just having a page a day where I can write out the things that I need to do and then have a ton of space for days that I have a lot to do or days I feel like jotting down a couple of memories or notes. That's working really well for me. And overall, I just feel I feel really organized. Yeah, and in general, I'm spending very little time planning. I do have to do a little bit of setup with the weekly supplement, so I did have to renumbered the timeline, so the default timeline is shorter. Someone left a comment in my last video suggesting that I just do the rest of the year, and I thought that was a really good suggestion. And so I've already gone through the whole book and I've removed the old timeline, and every so often I'll just come in here and I'll start renumbering the timeline. That's not a lot of setup, and then here 0 setup. So I did experiment with different layouts with the weekly, and I will share that in a different video because it was kind of fun experimenting with different ways of using the weekly. But in general, most of the options would have required a lot more setup, and I'm at a stage in my life where I want to open my planner and be able to use it pretty much right away. I don't want to open it and then have to do a ton of setup before I can even start using it. So that brings me to what I'm going to do moving forward. I started this out as an experiment, and I thought I'll try this out for maybe a month or so. It's now been about a month and a half, and I will either go back to the cousin because maybe I'll come to the conclusion that I just can't make it work with this tiny little weekly supplement, but I love this and I don't feel any desire to shift back to my cousin, other than there is a part of me that would have liked to have a whole year of my weekly schedule in my cousin. But instead, I'm gonna have like half of it in here and half of it in my cousin, and I think that's fine because it's actually pretty representative of my life anyway, where I'm in a season of a lot of change. So I'm just gonna continue using this as my daily planner. This is my weekly, and then keeping this as my planning system. And as of right now, my plan is to continue using this system into 2025. But of course, Hobonichi preview season is coming up around the corner, and I know that there's always a chance that I might change my mind, or maybe after a few more months I'll decide that this is just too overwhelming to have this day 1 page a day, or maybe I'll, really miss the cousin or whatever. Maybe I'll want to try a different system altogether. But as of right now, how I'm feeling is this is working really well for me. It's checking all the boxes, especially that portability, and it's giving me the headspace to focus on other things instead of spending all my time thinking about planning. I don't know why, but it is. So it's a really nice side effect, and I'm not complaining. So that's my update with my A6. And as for my cousin, I haven't abandoned the cousin at all, actually. I've been continuing to use the daily pages as a notebook. So here's an example of where I was reading a few different articles and summarizing the key points for them. I also use this for non-confidential meetings. So any kind of meeting that I have where information needs to be kept confidential happens in a separate notebook that I lock away. And also, as another disclaimer, is all the names that you see here that haven't been blocked out, these have all been changed to protect the identity of the people that I have meetings with. So I'm not sharing confidential information on this video. I've basically been using the Cousin Daily Pages exactly this way all year. That hasn't changed. And then just because I had the blank weekly spreads, I've been experimenting with different ways to use these pages. So I think I will share in more detail what I've been experimenting with in a different video, so I can kind of go over these more. But if you have any questions before I do that video, leave them in the comments and I will make sure that I address them in that video. And if you have any other suggestions on how you've been using this weekly page that's not just a vertical schedule planner, let me know, because I've been having a lot of fun experimenting. I think it's important for me to do this because I am still considering getting a cousin for next year, just because this is working out so well for me. I love the quotes at the bottom. I'm one of those people who actually enjoys reading them. I love having the structure of the day. I know there are other planners like Sterling ink that have all blank pages, but I prefer having the structure, and I know that my life could change unexpectedly and maybe one day I'll need all this space. Like maybe I'll need all this space to do planning. Right now I don't, but I like knowing that I'll have this option. And I have considered a day free as well. I think they have quotes, I'm not actually sure, but I prefer to have this many pages. The only thing is that if I don't figure out a good use for the weekly pages, then it's gonna feel like a waste to get a notebook just for that reason. So I don't know. I'm gonna have an A5 notebook of some sort. It's either gonna be completely blank, or it might be a cousin, or maybe a day free, or maybe I'll venture out into some other brands. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think based on how I've been using this book so far. And I use the monthlies as a planner for my YouTube videos. It's kind of loose, but it is a nice place to plan for that kind of thing. So I do like having this structure, and I think it works really well as like a textbook and as a place to take like long form notes and meetings and things like that. So it works out really well, but I don't know if, I haven't decided for sure what I'm gonna do for next year, but that's kind of where I'm at with the Cousin. So it's still getting used. It's not just sitting abandoned. It's just the weeklies are not getting used because I have been doing my weekly planning in this. I would love to know how things are going in your planner system. Have you made any changes at this point? And regardless of whether you've made changes or not, I'd love to hear what system you're in. And if you have any feedback or questions about my system right now or anything that you saw today, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer you as soon as I can. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around with me in this very chatty planner update. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you soon in the next video. Bye!